Yes, here we are once again, everyone. Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's July 10th, 2019. Happy 710 day to all of you oil aficionados, dabbers, concentrate lovers, what have you. Happy 710. It's not quite 420. It doesn't have the cachet or the exposure, but still something to be celebrated. I know a lot of you out there are celebrating, so big ups to you, as the kids say. Today we're talking about what's next in Illinois after adult use legalization. Also some updates on Oklahoma medical marijuana and some new rules there. And big hearing up on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. today concerning cannabis. We'll talk about all that. Coming up, at first, Cannabis News is brought to you by NatureSide, nature-side.com. And their organic, all-natural pesticides. Grow safe and poison-free. Don't use harmful chemicals on what you're growing. Don't use banned pesticides. Be regulatory compliant. I know that's a lot, but all of it can be accomplished with NatureSide, nature-side.com. Proud sponsor of Cannabis News. Check them out. They're awesome. First story by yours truly at marijuanatimes.org. What's next in Illinois? Of course, as you know, Illinois recently became the 11th state to legalize the possession of marijuana for all adults. It was the second to do so via the legislature. It's the first to allow commercial sales via the legislature. And I wanted to know, well, what's coming next? I mean, obviously, there's some problems with the law. There's no home growing in the law for adults. There is medical marijuana home growing now. There's no home growing. There's a lot of other problems. So I spoke with Kelvin McCabe, who's a member of the board of directors of Illinois NORML. He said we'll be advocating for home growing, obviously, for all adults. We'll also be advocating for many other improvements, including expanded licensing and cheaper licensing fees. We're also kind of waiting, he said, on the rulemaking process to begin so we can see how this bill is going to be implemented. And then we will analyze it and go from there. Another big area of concern is workplace drug testing. We need to approve that in Illinois as well. You can check out that story at marijuanatimes.org. Of course, it's also linked in the description of this video. Whatever is going to happen in Illinois is something that's going to be happening with a lot of legalization once, it's not the finish line. Adult use legalization being passed in the state is not the finish line. There's still a lot of work to do with improving rules, things of that nature. In the case of Illinois, obviously, home growing is a big thing. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that story as we do here on Cannabis News. It's kind of our thing. This next story from K4.com, KFOR. Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority announces legislative changes to the program. Big changes are coming to rules regarding medical marijuana. On Tuesday, the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority says it is currently taking steps to implement statutory modifications to the state's medical marijuana program that was made during the 2019 legislative session. Of course, we've talked a lot about Oklahoma's medical marijuana program here, how quickly it was implemented, the lack of the sky caving in due to the quickness of its implementation. Tom Bates, Interim Commissioner of Health in Oklahoma, said OMMA has reinstituted a project management structure to ensure compliance and timely implementation of the changes. Implementation activities will include rule promulgation, procurements, information technology changes, application developments, and operational planning. In other words, the state government is going to get much more involved in the medical marijuana program in Oklahoma, which can only be to its detriment and to the detriment of patients and to the detriment of business owners. And this guy not only wants to do that, he wants to use a lot of big words while he's doing it. But it all breaks down to, hey, we need more control. We're government. That's our thing. You know how we do Cannabis News here? Government's thing is control and controlling things. And that's what they're going to do in Oklahoma. There's a new legislative changes involving board certification, patient and caregiver application processing, waste disposal. More changes will become effective after August 29th, including rules on authorized physicians, a new 60-day license, sharing of information, reduced fees for veterans, application processing, residency requirements, schools, sales, seed to sale, testing, compliance. Just on and on and on. Things are going fine. They're going quickly. A lot of licensed patients, a lot of dispensaries open. But now here it comes, the state government. We've got 1 million rules for a program that's it's just fine. It's working just fine. A lot of people are getting access to medical marijuana. That's the whole point. all other things aside, when it comes to medical marijuana, the point is to get them, as many people as possible, access to medical marijuana so they can make that choice. And government getting involved is not conducive to that, to more choice or efficiency or anything like that. Last story from foxbusiness.com. Marijuana legalization gets bipartisan support and historic hearing. As I mentioned, there was a big hearing up on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Today, a group of experts testified on Capitol Hill Wednesday in favor of changing federal laws to allow for the legal sale and use of marijuana, which was largely embraced by lawmakers on both sides of the aisle throughout the hearing. Topics ranged from racial disparities among incarceration rates for possession to the economic impact of legalizing the plant's use. Cannabis Trade Federation CEO Neil Levine, who represents companies within the industry, said, quote, "The state-based cannabis industry today is not only serving customers, but also has become a driver of economic growth and tax revenue in states across the country. But having a federal law in the books is making the product illegal has proven difficult for people who make their living in the legal sale and consumption of marijuana, i.e. state legal businesses." Levine said this gap between state and federal law also creates a tension for cannabis workers and employees who must show up to work every day, knowing their activity could put them in danger of federal prosecution. Pointed out a bunch of numbers. Colorado, since 2014, legal sales of the product raked in $6.5 billion, about $1 billion in tax revenue. State legal cannabis sales are expected to exceed $20 billion in 2019. So, good news. I mean, it looks like that lawmakers, at least when it comes to the House, are they're interested. They're in favor. At least they're open-minded about marijuana law reform. So now that we need to keep pushing the bills through, get them through the committees to the floor, and then push them on to the Senate, and then make the Senate make a decision whether or not they're going to act on these bills or ignore them, and we'll see what happens from there. But hopefully a lot more legislation get to the floor of the House and be voted on and hopefully passed. If so, of course, we'll tell you about it here. We'll tell you all about the cannabis news because, again, that's what we do here. Cannabis news, hence the name Cannabis News. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the show. Search us, the Marijuana Times, on YouTube and Vimeo. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Growing subscribers every day there. Click that little notification bell on YouTube so you know when a new episode of Cannabis News has dropped. If you want the audio version of the show, Apple Podcasts, search the Marijuana Times on there. Click the video tab at marijuanatimes.org. There's many ways to find the show. Check out the articles at marijuanatimes.org as well. Thank you to Nature Side, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Thank you all for watching and listening. We'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.